As I said in my sermon last night, different gospel writers treat the coming of Jesus in different ways. And we love on Christmas Eve to hear the beautiful, as I said, painterly story, that the picture that St. Luke paints with words, and how our imaginations are taken to the stable in Bethlehem so long ago. But St. John takes a different path. This is St. John, for whom our cathedral is named, St. John the Divine, who has a gospel, a book of the Gospels attributed to him, but also, of course, the final book of the Bible, the book of Revelation, in which John, while on the Isle of Patmos, has a revelation of heaven, of all things, not unlike the Transfiguration, in which Peter and James and John see the glory of God revealed before them. To John, all things are revealed. And so he is the more mystical of the gospel writers. And the direction that John takes is one of eternity. Luke's version is in the here and the now, telling the story just as it happened, almost as a reporter. John takes a huge step back and frames the coming of Jesus in the context of eternity. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That is to say, Jesus is part of the eternal Godhead. The Word is capitalized in the text to indicate that it's not just a spoken word or a written word, but God's Word, the Logos, the Son. And so the Son comes into the world, foretold by John, his cousin, 6 months older than he. John, who was in the wilderness, exhorting the people, forgiving their sins and telling them to make his path straight. Prepare ye the way of the Lord, which is why John figures so prominently in the season of Advent, leading just up to Christmas. And people ask him, "Are you the Messiah? Are you the one who is to come?" He sternly tells them, "No, I am not. In fact, I am not worthy to untie the thong of the sandal of him who is to come." And so we celebrated that last night when the one who was to come did come in the humblest and most vulnerable form possible, as a tiny baby born in adverse circumstances, with literally the world on his shoulders. Isaiah foretells his coming very clearly, as we sang in our hymn. And the government will be upon his shoulders. From the moment he was born, King Herod was trying to kill him. And yet he came into the world. He came unto his own, and his own received him not. But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe on his name. So while we have a beautiful picture painted in Luke, we have more of a concept from John. A concept, if we can begin to wrap our minds around it, of eternity and of our finite, timely, if you will, lives and bodies being all bound up in that somehow that we really can't understand, but somehow that we believe. We make room for the mystery so that the seed of faith can sprout and grow and flourish and help us to make our way through this life until we can see him face to face. And so I like to always, it's become my tradition, to end my Christmas Day sermon by reading to you a poem. A poem that I was introduced to years ago that I'd never heard before and made a mark on me. It was written about 100 years ago in Philadelphia. He was born in an obscure village, the child of a peasant woman. He grew up in still another village where he worked in a carpenter shop until he was 30. Then for 3 years, he was an itinerant preacher. He never wrote a book. He never held an office. He never had a family or owned a house. He didn't go to college. He never visited a big city. He never traveled 200 miles from the place where he was born. He did none of the things one usually associates with greatness. He had no credentials but himself. He was only 33 when the tide of public opinion turned against him. His friends ran away. He was turned over to his enemies and went through the mockery of a trial. He was nailed to a cross between two thieves. While he was dying, his executioners gambled for his clothing, the only property he had on earth. When he was dead, he was laid in a borrowed grave through the pity of a friend. 20 centuries have come and gone, and today he is the central figure of much of the human race and the leader of mankind's progress. All of the armies that ever marched, all of the navies that ever sailed, all of the parliaments that ever sat, all of the kings that ever reigned, put together, have not affected the life of man as much as that one solitary life.